Your Royal Highness Meghan Markle, congratulations to you both. Thank you. Could we begin with the proposal, the exact moment you got engaged? When did it happen and how did it unfold? After the confrontation ended and Meghan's heels disappeared into the distance, William didn't return to the memorial or linger with guests offering polite assurances. Instead, he turned to a senior aide and uttered 3 quiet words. "My study now." Within the hour, a small circle assembled in his private office. The blinds were closed. Catherine sat near the fireplace, pale yet steady. Beside her were 2 of William's most trusted advisors, a security liaison and a senior courtier who had served both Queen Elizabeth and King Charles. William listened as each witness recounted the argument. Minor details differed, but the essential facts were clear. Meghan had insulted Catherine's character, challenged her public position, and used Diana's legacy as a weapon. "This can't happen again," William said. Suggestions ranged from keeping distance to issuing a formal warning. He shook his head. "My duty is to my wife, my children, and the crown. There won't be a next time." His decision was final. Meghan Markle would no longer be allowed to attend any royal event, public or private, during his lifetime. The order was quietly carried out as a personal boundary. This moment wasn't simply about defending Catherine. It was about defining William's future reign. The fallout wasn't triggered by a single fight, but rather years of tension between Meghan Markle and Catherine, Princess of Wales, a slow-burning conflict that polite smiles could never entirely conceal. From the day Meghan entered royal life, their temperaments clashed in subtle but unmistakable ways. Catherine, after more than a decade of grooming before formally joining the firm, had mastered the ability to blend into the institution, her public image defined by discipline, restraint, and unwavering commitment to tradition. Meghan, on the other hand, was bold, expressive, and willing to question long-standing customs the moment she saw them as outdated. The first public sign of friction surfaced during the widely discussed 2018 bridesmaid dress fitting. Catherine had just given birth to Prince Louis and was exhausted, juggling the demands of motherhood with preparations for a high-profile royal wedding. Meghan reportedly requested last-minute changes to Princess Charlotte's dress, adjustments to fit and fabric, and the disagreement grew heated. One of them left the room in tears. To this day, depending on who's telling the story, the only debate is which one it was. Meghan later claimed she comforted Catherine. Palace sources insisted it was the reverse. Whatever the reality, both women walked away convinced they had been wronged. Over the years that followed, small clashes continued to surface. Palace staff observed how Meghan and Catherine rarely interacted outside of official appearances. Meghan's friends believed Catherine treated her with a frosty reserve, while Catherine's circle felt Meghan was temperamental and unpredictable. But before we continue, we'd love for you to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. If you just did, we truly appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the main content. Media coverage only made things worse. Positive headlines about Catherine's initiatives in early childhood development were often followed by Meghan's talk show appearances where she spoke, indirectly but unmistakably, about her struggles within the family. Privately, Catherine grew increasingly frustrated with being painted as the villain in Meghan's ongoing story of mistreatment. Even their parenting styles became a source of tension. At family events, Meghan's more relaxed approach, allowing the children to speak freely and wander, clashed with Catherine's structured guidance. These differences sometimes sparked sharp exchanges that others stepped in quickly to diffuse. William made repeated attempts to play the mediator. He encouraged Catherine to be patient and urged Meghan to focus on the larger mission of the monarchy. But with each passing year, the emotional distance between the 2 women grew. Catherine stopped accepting informal invitations involving the Sussexes, and Meghan noticed, her resentment gradually hardening. By 2024, the polite veneer was barely holding. Meghan's public comments about telling her truth and her criticisms of the system increasingly felt like thinly veiled attacks, especially to Catherine. William found it harder to brush it all off. Those close to the family knew that the next time both women were in the same room, long-stored grievances were likely to erupt. The only question was when, and whether either would hold back. The occasion could not have been more solemn, a private memorial honoring a cherished family member with a guest list deliberately kept small. Prince Harry was invited, and when news came that he intended to bring Meghan, palace aides hesitated. After long debate, William agreed, hoping the gravity of the day would keep everyone on their best behavior. On the morning of the memorial, Catherine dressed with her usual understated grace, knowing every detail would be noticed. Meghan arrived later in a sharp, fashionable outfit that drew immediate attention. Her greeting to Catherine was formal, brisk, a small nod, no smile. Catherine returned the gesture, and for a moment, it looked like civility might prevail. But tensions made themselves known in subtler ways. How they positioned themselves in a room, which conversations they joined, what subjects they chose to emphasize. Meghan spoke warmly with some guests, yet seemed careful to stay out of Catherine's proximity. Catherine remained cordial, but distant. The spark came in a side room during a quiet conversation. Speaking to a nearby group, Meghan remarked on how some royal engagements were more about appearances than genuine purpose. She didn't raise her voice, but her words were clear, and Catherine, passing by, heard them. Catherine paused, turned, and asked evenly what Meghan meant by that comment. With a half-smile, Meghan replied, "If the shoe fits." The message was unmistakable. The atmosphere thickened instantly. Catherine, who almost never reacted publicly, decided she wasn't going to step aside this time.
Undermining one another, in public or private, doesn't help the family, she said coolly. Meghan shot back without hesitation. Speaking the truth isn't the same as undermining, Meghan shot back. Pretending everything's fine is. A few aides exchanged uneasy glances. They could sense something serious was unfolding. This wasn't a minor disagreement. It was years of simmering resentment breaking through the surface. One staff member quietly edged toward the door, likely intending to alert William. By the time William arrived, Meghan and Catherine had drifted closer together, their voices low but tense, each delivering barbed comments with controlled precision. This was the first time in years that either woman had spoken so candidly about their frustrations, and it teetered on the brink of chaos. William stepped into the room and felt the intensity immediately. Meghan stood stiff, shoulders squared, hands slicing the air as she spoke. Catherine stood steady, posture rigid, her eyes calm but blazing with challenge. The first words William heard stopped him cold. Meghan saying, "Maybe if you spent less time perfecting your photo ops and more time being a real sister-in-law, we wouldn't be here." Catherine's reply, soft but razor-sharp, came seconds later. "And maybe if you respected the institution you married into, you wouldn't be tearing it apart." William's jaw clenched. This wasn't royal discretion. This was raw and unfiltered. Meghan turned to him, pressing her case. "You've allowed this for years, William. Your wife treats me like an outsider, and you've done nothing." Catherine stepped forward, composure faltering. "I've defended you more times than you'll ever know, Meghan. You keep crossing lines, and then playing the victim." William lifted his hand in a gesture for calm, but Meghan pushed on, voice sharp. "Your mother would have seen through this fake image, William. She would have seen who's really right." That was the breaking point. Using Diana's name like that, in that moment, was unthinkable. William's face hardened. His voice, when he spoke, was controlled and final. "Enough. This ends now." Just then, Harry appeared in the doorway, sensing the crisis. He stepped toward Meghan, but William's gaze never wavered. "You need to leave," William said. Meghan blinked in disbelief. "Now?"
Yes, this isn't just about today. It's every insult, every attack, every time you've tried turning this family into your theater. You are no longer welcome here. Silence spread through the room. Meghan looked at Harry, his face caught between anger and shock. Staff moved quietly into place, ready to escort her. Without another word, Meghan turned and walked out, her heels echoing sharply down the hallway. No one followed. No one spoke. The damage was done. William sensed that the line had been crossed, one that could never be repaired. When Meghan's footsteps finally faded, he did not return to the memorial or attempt to smooth over what had happened. Instead, he turned to a senior aide with 3 clipped words. "My study. Now." Within the hour, a tight group assembled in the privacy of his office. The blinds were closed. Catherine sat quietly at the hearth, pale but composed. 2 trusted advisors stood nearby, along with a security liaison and a senior courtier who had served both Queen Elizabeth and King Charles. William asked each person present to recount exactly what they had seen. Versions differed in small details: what was said first, who raised their voice, whether Catherine responded before or after William walked in. But the core facts remained consistent. Meghan had directly attacked Catherine's character, challenged her legitimacy in the public eye, and worst of all, weaponized Diana's name. To William, this wasn't a momentary lapse. It was confirmation of a pattern he'd long suspected. Meghan wasn't simply pushing boundaries. She was doing it in a way that would inevitably spill into the public arena and feed global fascination with royal discord. "I've let too much go," William admitted, glancing toward Catherine. "For the sake of peace, for the sake of appearances. But this is something I can't allow again." Talk quickly shifted to consequences. Suggestions ranged from temporary distancing to a formal written warning to quietly asking Meghan to excuse herself from family events for the next year. William shook his head. "We've tried that. She returns, and it begins again. My duty is to my wife, my children, and the stability of the crown. There won't be another chance." What he said next was both deliberate and astonishing. By William's order, Meghan Markle would no longer be welcome at any royal function, public or private, for the rest of his lifetime. Not as a guest, not as Harry's companion, not even at informal gatherings on royal grounds. The directive would not be issued as an official royal proclamation, which could trigger political fallout. Instead, it would be treated as a personal boundary set by the Prince of Wales. Security would be discreetly informed, guest lists updated, and all family invitations routed through William's office first. There was a moment of silence after he finished. One advisor warned that such a move could permanently damage his bond with Harry. William didn't hesitate. "My brother is an adult. He'll make his own choices. But I will not allow my wife to be disrespected in her own home again." By the time the meeting adjourned, the royal household was already shifting into action, drafting emails, placing calls, giving quiet instructions. The decision was final. In that moment, William wasn't just a husband protecting his wife. He was a future king drawing a line that no one would be permitted to cross. Word of the altercation didn't stay hidden for long. Early press reports were vague. Tensions flare behind palace doors. Private dispute at royal event. Within days, though, leaks added more detail. Phrases like heated exchange and personal remarks began to appear. Soon, the word ban was everywhere. In Montecito, the Sussex team reportedly went into crisis mode. Meghan's advisors suggested releasing a statement, but Harry counseled restraint, in public at least. Behind the scenes, there was talk of a televised sit-down to share their version of events. Some even whispered about legal consultations, though pursuing that path risked unearthing even more damaging revelations. Public opinion split quickly, but appeared to shift. Meghan maintained a loyal fan base who believed she'd been unfairly frozen out from the start.
Yet many felt sympathy drifting toward Catherine. Photos of the Princess of Wales continuing her royal duties with grace, despite the surrounding whirlwind, solidified her image as the composed figure rising above the spectacle. Inside the palace, the response was swift. Invitations were vetted more rigorously. The circle around William and Catherine tightened noticeably. Leaks all but vanished. Their joint engagements projected one clear theme: steadiness. Royal commentators debated the long-term fallout. Some warned the break with Harry might be permanent. Others saw it as William's strategic move, a decisive boundary before wearing the crown. One thing was certain: the ban quickly became one of the most talked-about royal dramas in years. And for Meghan, the message was unmistakable. Her return to any royal setting was no longer an option. Whatever bridges had once linked the families were not merely burned, they were reduced to dust. Family conflict is hardly new within the House of Windsor, but a lifelong exclusion issued not by the sovereign, but by his heir, is nearly unprecedented. William's decision to bar Meghan Markle indefinitely is more than a personal reaction. It signals the type of king he plans to become. For Catherine, it brought painful validation. After years of remaining composed, swallowing private frustrations for the sake of unity, everything came to a head in a single confrontation. The toll was heavy, but the outcome unmistakable. She would no longer play the role of silent target, quietly absorbing barbs and insinuations. For Harry, it marks an excruciating impasse, caught between devotion to his wife and what remains of his bond with his brother. For Meghan, it solidifies her position on the outside looking in, perhaps permanently. And for the watching world, it becomes yet another dramatic turn in a story where tradition, ego, and the pressures of the monarchy collide. Will Meghan fight back? Will Harry try to undo the damage? Or is this the final, unhealable rift between two brothers once thought inseparable? Inside palace walls, officials may hope for calm, but royal history suggests that whenever one door closes in Windsor, another scandal is already waiting to be opened.